Hey, what's going on, everyone? Welcome back to the channel and another episode of Dump and Chase. And the hockey season is starting to slow down, but don't worry, it's not done yet. We've had the draft, free agency is open, some players going to their teams already, while some big names still sit in unrestricted free agency. Some RFAs have filed for arbitration, some very interesting lineups, and a bunch of other news as well as signings. We're going to get into all of it. We're going to talk about all of it. But before we do, make sure you go like, subscribe, ring that bell, and comment. Want to hear what all of you have to say. Truly, I read through everything, the DMs, the comments, anything that comes along. I want to make this better. So if you have something that you want to say, let me know. But let's not waste any more time. Let's get right into the news. And I have already talked about it at length, but we're going to go over it again because this is a team that is very intriguing. It's the Anaheim Ducks, the Leo Carlsson offer sheet, the Pavel Mintyukov signing, and everything else. So, of course, if you are living under a rock right now in terms of NHL content, Leo Carlsson has been offer sheeted by the Philadelphia Flyers, 5 years, $18 million per year. It is a absolutely insane contract. We're talking about the highest paid player in the league. Either way, whether he is in Philly or he is in Anaheim. Now, we are still awaiting the news to see if the Anaheim Ducks will match it. You know, per Pavel Mintyukov, the day before this happened, I will match any offer sheet that comes here. The thing is, there are good and bad things to matching or not matching this offer sheet. Either way, it very much complicates the Anaheim Ducks' future in more ways than one. So, Leo Carlsson is going to get this money either way, right? If it's matched by Anaheim, he goes back to Anaheim. Nothing really happens in terms of compensation. They just have the contract there, probably not the number that he was looking for. That's why you get your stuff done early. But if they don't match it, 4 unprotected first-round picks go to the Anaheim Ducks from the Philadelphia Flyers. That's their next 4. And now we're left in an interesting spot. So before we get into that area, let's go to this first. So Pavel Mintyukov signs a 5-year deal, $7.2 million per year. And this was definitely intriguing. That's what I was going to say first. But yeah, so very similar to the Brandt Clarke one, a little bit less. Brandt Clarke got 7.4 over 5 years. Pavel Mintyukov is not Brandt Clarke. Outside of his rookie season, from where he looked really good, we were thinking this is going to be the future guy. And this was pre-Lacombe and everything else. You were looking at him and saying, he is going to be the future number 1 or 2 or whatever it is. He's going to be a big name for the Anaheim Ducks. The next 2 seasons just haven't been that. Last season, 73 games played, 8 goals, 22 points. It wasn't, I guess, what you were hoping for from Pavel Mintyukov up to this point. Now, granted, he's 22 years old, right? There is still lots of runway before this guy pans out to see what he's really going to be. But he hasn't taken those steps to show us, especially at pretty consistent 17 to 18 minutes, what he's going to be. So this is where things start to get more complicated. Because at this point, Pavel Mintyukov is signed to this. Is it a great deal? No. I don't think it's good. It's one that he can grow into, but he's going to have to prove himself. And Pavel Mintyukov kind of put himself into a corner. I said this in my video that I made, and it is easily, it's probably one of the easier things that you'll see in terms of just talking about a team is that, look, I want Anaheim to succeed. I have no ill will against them. But in this case, this is just bad asset management. A lot of these contracts probably should have been talked about last summer, in the season, weeks before this happened. And when you wait, when you hardball players, and apparently their offer was $12 to $13 million over a long-term contract, again, very fair deal when you look at things. I think I said 10.75 or something like that, 10.5. And again, that seems low, but a lot more realistic than what Leo Carlsson got. That happens. So let's just say you match it, right? And now you have this contract of $7.2 million over 5 years from Pavel Mintyukov. That leaves you with just under $10 million to go and make other moves happen. One of those bigger moves, Cutter Gauthier, who scored 41 goals for you last year. He was already looking for a bag, right? I think I said 9.5. And again, a lot of my predictions were based on Pavel Mintyukov hardballing, and no other team was going to do that, right? I looked at it, I said the situation, yeah, guys or teams and GMs could go and offer sheet these players, but they have the cap space. Now, was I expecting an $18 million per year offer sheet? No. And this is where it gets interesting yet again, because now Cutter Gauthier was probably looking for as low as the 9.5 that I was saying, but probably as high as about $11-12 million. Again, depending on how you view him as a player, I think that was probably where he was going to go. And now this changes things up a lot more. Now, this is a little bit misleading right here because it says that they've already matched it. That's not true unless it just happened now. But Leo Carlsson is still under the Anaheim Ducks. They still need to see if they're going to match it or not. But it's an interesting situation. You're at $18 million, just under 10. You're going to have to move some contracts, and in his case, thankfully for Pat Verbeek, he has some that he can do. Chris Kreider 6.5, Frank Vatrano 4.57, and then of course Alex Killorn 6.25. Now the thing is, if you got this stuff done before, you wouldn't have to be worrying about this right now. Like genuinely, you would not have to be worrying about this at all. And I think you'd actually be in a pretty decent spot. You wouldn't have to move out contracts, attach assets to them, and now you're going to have to do that. And again, this is the situation where they match that offer sheet. He comes back, you try to figure out Cutter Gauthier, you move some contracts around. Again, this isn't even talking about the fact that their defense core is pretty weak, right? Like Jackson Lacombe, Pavel Mintyukov, and Nick Jensen are not going to do it. I like Drew Helleson, I like Tristan Lanoux, I like Ian Moore and Tyson Hines, but they're not NHL guys, everyday guys that you want to have, some of them being on your top pair, some of them being in your top 4, and fine on your bottom pair. But this is where it is so crazy because now that say you don't match it, you get 4 first-round picks back, that $18 million is gone, you can go and sign Cutter Gauthier to probably more of a contract that you've been looking for, right? Because you don't have that 18 on your thing now, right? You've said, no, I'm not doing that, on the contrary to what you said. But now you don't have your number 1 center. Now you have 4 first-round picks. You have yours, right, for 27, 28, 29, 30. So you have 8 altogether, okay? And, yeah, maybe you can go out and get a Dylan Larkin. I wouldn't be surprised if his, want has went up in terms of Steve Yzerman, right? He's 5 years at 8.7. He's a good centerman. I wouldn't be surprised if that price went up. I mean, Elias Pettersson's around, but what kind of player is he going to be at 11.6, right? Do you really want that contract? Right? There are a couple of options when it comes to the NHL. But a lot of them, in terms of centers, probably not going to get a good price. That's where it's difficult, right? Because if you don't match it, now you have to scramble around, try to find some centermen to plug into this lineup to fill in Leo Carlsson's spot. And you just can't do that, right? Like Granlund is fine right now at 34 as your second line guy. He's going to be in his last or second last year, but you just like you can't do that. Like you can't have that. Like you got to figure it out. And your depth is gonna if this is the case, right? Say if you keep him, your depth's going to take a hit. Chris Kreider was pretty decent last year. Alex Killorn was pretty decent last year. Frank Vatrano, you could go with or without him, wasn't that impactful. And keep in mind, this is also not including a guy right now, Troy Terry, who's hurt. So, again, you plug that guy into your lineup. But either way, you're already put in a bad spot. It's either your cap's not good, right? And you have to figure out things. You have to pretty much take away from your lineup and not be as impactful in other areas and really just take away from what was supposed to be a really fun, young, with some veteran teams. Or you have to pivot and now go find other options, probably overpay. You're not in a good spot. So Jenny Briere and company doing this is absolutely nuts. Like it's for them. I mean, you get a first line center, your future guy. There's not many of those around. They haven't had luck doing it, so I don't hate this move for them. Now, do I think he's worth $18 million? No, not at all. I don't blame Leo Carlsson for signing that contract. But for Philly, I mean, like it's what? Like you're hoping that one of those 4 first-round picks is going to be your future center. Why not get one at 21 years old? It's not bad. It's not bad. I'll also say that if they match that walks them right into unrestricted free agency. So you get 1 UFA year out of it. So if Anaheim does match, it's tough. That's tough. So The Anaheim Ducks, one team I wanted to talk about. Their defense, as I mentioned, it's going to be a tough sled down that way. Their forward core, if they match, is going to take a hit. If they don't, they're really going to have to pivot and find a centerman. It's just not good. It's not good in Anaheim. I don't really think I have to sprinkle that on top, but I think we all know that. Another interesting team that I've kind of not fallen in love with what they've done in the offseason, but I'm just really interested, is the New York Rangers. They made a lot of moves. Some that honestly were good to me. Like, I really liked the Oliver Bjorkstrand contract. I think if it doesn't work out this year, you could flip him at half retained and probably get a good return. Pavel Dorofeyev, I'd rate that one as like a B minus. I think that's what I actually had him as. You go and get a score. Vegas was going to be able to pay him. You pay a fine amount. He can replace what you were going to be missing from a guy in Artemi Panarin in the upcoming season. Not fully at all, but again, good young player, 25 years old. Why not? You go and do a couple of other moves as well, and a lot of them I actually really liked. Like, you get rid of Vincent Trocheck, you get some pieces back, like a Sean Durzi, and you go and get Marcus Pettersson for a first, which, is a very short-term move in this way. I think we're all seeing through this Chris Drury smokescreen and saying that you're just trying to protect your job. I don't care what's going to happen in the future. I think Mike Bartner actually said it really well when it came to this case, which was, in the short term, you're trying to save your job, right? And to make these moves, like I like the Trocheck one where you get Sean Durzi, you get some impactful pieces, a young guy. I like that. But the Marcus Pettersson one, that's another interesting one. Like, what is that first? What was it, like a 2030 first? What is that one going to look like? Is it going to be a high top 10 pick? So I think Mike explained that pretty well. And I think altogether, the Rangers really, they intrigue me. Like, especially with the Braden Schneider one. It's $7.9 million. I don't think he's going to get that much, but he's probably going to take about 6.5, whatever it's going to be. And that defense core looks good. Shesterkin's fine. You have Korpisalo as your backup. He wasn't great for Boston for the most part, but he's fine as a backup. I think he does a little bit better in New York, but again, we'll see. Everything's kind of different. When you look at this team, I think they did a really good job of giving some of their younger guys a chance, right? Like, Perreault hopefully is going to take a step. Laba, I think he's been pretty impactful considering everything. Will Cooley, I think he's going to be pretty good. Joe Veleno, I like that contract. You still have Radish in your bottom six. Again, it doesn't pop out at you. I'm not trying to hype them up more than what they already are. But I really do like the moves in the back end, right? I think the goaltending already is good, right? And you're just kind of hoping that Lafreniere does more. I like the Bjorkstrand one. Miller will be your center too. Zibanejad. Like, again, there are things they're going to have to address down the road if this doesn't end up working out. But in the short term, if you're Chris Drury, you're making a bet here. And that's where the New York Rangers are at. And that's where we're going to be sitting. And then there's the Toronto Maple Leafs. Everyone knows how much I love the Toronto Maple Leafs. And that's just a childhood thing. But again, this is not me trying to hype them up because I grew up watching this team. I'm hyping them up because I like their moves. Now, are they a cup contender? No, they're not. But I think that they made a lot of right moves on contracts, like term-wise, that were pretty good. And that makes sense. Some of the AAV, not my favorite, but I think that you fix your bottom six. I think that you make it more of an identity. The defense, you go and get Darren Radish. Emil Andre is going to be a good puck mover. We're going to see what happens with Morgan Rielly. I think more than likely he's going to be moved out. And you get Sergei Bobrovsky, and this is all not to mention that you get Gavin McKenna at number 1 overall. Now, there's going to be more moves for the Toronto Maple Leafs, but I think it's pretty fair to say that a guy like Austin Matthews, you're hoping that he bounces back, right? Like, the Leafs are under the impression that this guy is still going to be that impactful goal scorer. The guy, maybe not 69 goals, almost 70 goals in a season, but give me 55 and good two-way play. And this is going to be an interesting team. Now, a lot of things do have to work in the Leafs' favor. Now, one of those is, how is this bottom six going to work out? I think there's going to be still some moves, obviously, because of the cap. I think they're over, they're over by 2.7 right now. Moves are going to happen. I think one of them is Dakota Joshua. Even though I like him, he didn't have the greatest year last year. I think he can be impactful, possibly with reuniting with a teammate in Bluger. But when you look at the top 6, what's going to have to work? Well, Gavin McKennon's the first one, right? I'm not expecting him to step in here and get 70 points. If he does, insane. If he gets 60 points, insane. 50, awesome. 40, that's kind of what I'm expecting between 30. Like 40 is great. If he's probably going to struggle, but you don't want less than that, right? You're hoping he's in the Calder conversation. So if that's the case, then yeah, like 50, 60 points. But if he is that impactful guy right off the bat, that's step 1 right there. And that top 6, still pretty good. Even with a 35-year-old John Tavares, he's not the quickest. His skating has never been that great, but he works damn hard. And he had like 60 points last year. He was still a really good guy. Ideally, you want him on the wing, and you have a centerman there. You don't have that. Easton Cowan's also another interesting piece. I thought he had a really good Calder Cup playoffs. They obviously went all the way and won. I like him as a guy where you say, in his second year, he's going to be great. Not like 60-point great, but 40? Is that fair? If you get 30 out of him, is that a win, right? If in the top 6, you're kind of hoping for more, but yeah, like I think when you look at that, you're saying, yeah, you want somewhat of a different step. Like, he's 21 years old, so again, still very young, but you want to see that. You want to see some type of step. And then there's the bottom 6, right? This is a fully revamped one. I was kind of hoping they were going to run somewhat of a 3-goalie just because of Stolars and, Bobrovsky a little older, maybe want some rest. But Hildeby and some picks go to Tampa Bay. They get Nick Paul. I like Nick Paul. I think he is a impactful third-line guy. His scoring did take a hit this past year, but he wasn't utilized the same in Tampa Bay by John Cooper. But he's a good player. He's a guy that you look at and you say, Nick Paul puts it on the line. He battles for pucks. He goes into the corners. You love that. Colton Sissons is another interesting one. I didn't like the 4-2-5, but I think as a third-line guy, I was actually expecting to be the fourth-line guy until they signed Bluger. But I think he's also interesting, right? Like, he could be a forechecking third-line guy alongside a Roslovic who's pretty speedy. But, the Sissons-Paul third line, I like that. And then you add some speed with Roslovic. He's a guy who, and I think it was like Dom Lecision kind of said this, but yeah, he's going to be pretty crazy for 25 games of the year, and the rest is just whatever, right? Like, you're hoping that changes at $4 million over 2 years, another contract I wasn't sure about, but again, he's speedy. Josh, we'll see where he's there, but we know what he does. Bluger, fine fourth line center. Like, at $2.5 million over 2 years, fine fourth line center. Duhaime, 2.6. When I saw the first 1.85 from Elliot Friedman, I was actually really excited about that. 2.6 is fine. Again, he's not going to be this insane guy, but he can skate. He's a heavy hitter, and yeah, he's a fourth line dude who can hopefully grind down the opponent. Darren Radish, we talked about him, big shot. And then the last one here is Bobrovsky, right? You 3 years, $7 million. Florida was not willing to touch that. They went out and got Jacob Markstrom. Right? So, like, what is that going to look like for the Toronto Maple Leafs? I don't know. And, yeah, I have belief in him. I'm still a little bit skeptical. Him and Stolars, they have some, past together, so hopefully they can work together, and you're hoping that Stolars can kind of take some of those games off. We've seen him do before. You're not getting him to play almost 40 games. You get him, like, 25 to 30, right? That's what you're hoping for if you're asking for also some just, like, time off, right? So I think that's pretty fair, maybe even more. We'll see. The Leafs team, very intriguing. Last one, the Washington Capitals. I don't really think I have to explain this one too much, but Alexander Ovechkin comes back. They get Alex Tuch, Jordan Kyrou, Boone Jenner. This team, I'm really excited for Washington. I'm really, really excited. And when you look at these lines, and honestly, I don't even think you have to have Ovechkin in your top 6. Like, I would be very much okay with, getting Kyrou up there, mixing it up, having Ovechkin as a power play specialist, especially at 40 years old. I want him to get a ton of goals as much as possible, put him in positions to succeed. But I'd just be really interested about that. And then there's the other parts of this lineup outside of the guys that you just signed or traded for. Leonard. Like, I want him to take a step. How is he going to look, right? He's 21. The Protest Brothers, I would love to see them on the set. It's not going to happen, but I would love to see them on the same line. That's so intriguing. Like, this team maybe doesn't have like the best forward core, but they do have the deepest. And I don't even think that's a question. Like, you talk about Boone Jenner, who's been playing the second line kind of C role for not the whole time when he was in Columbus, but like a decent amount of it until he took over, and then Coyle was there. As a third line guy, a leader, man, this is an exciting team. The defense is a little bit interesting. Not Sandin not being there is a tough pull. Vinny Desharnais, like at 4.2 over the next 4 years, makes me a little bit queasy. But I mean, you still have Chicker in there. You still have Faravari, Cole Hudson. I mean, again, another exciting piece for the Washington Capitals. You still have Matt Waugh, and then of course the goaltending is also just pretty solid. I mean, Logan Thompson, arguably one of the better goalies in the NHL, and Lindgren is fine as a backup. Definitely struggled, but again, just still one thing to look for. And then this isn't even including a guy in Frank who's not even in the lineup, and I love him as a bottom six piece. I assume he'll probably get in there. Yeah, this is going to be pretty fun for Washington. There's not too much to break down. This is just a really interesting, fun lineup to just talk about. And yeah, like that. Those are the teams that really intrigued me. There's definitely others, but again, what you feel, what you feel. The RFAs, a lot of interesting ones. Peyton Krebs, the Sabres. Ronan Seeley for the Hurricanes, Jet Greaves and Cole Sillinger for the Jackets, Jason Robertson for the Stars, of course, Kira Schmid for the Panthers, Kirby Dach for Montreal, Schneider for the Rangers, Jeffries for the Islanders, Borgo for the Senators, Drysdale and Zegras for the Flyers, Robertson for the Penguins, McMichael for the Blues, and Perfetti for the Jets. Now, when this releases, which is going to be today, you'll probably see that I'll post something. At least I'm planning to do it. I'm going to guess what a lot of these guys are going to get. Not all of them, but a lot of the NHL solid spot guys. I'll see what I do. I see how much time I have and how much room I have, but yeah, like this is going to be an interesting one. I don't think the Dallas Stars want this to get to arbitration. I think that's not going to go in favor of them, and I think that goes to about $13 million once everything's said and done. Either way, Peyton Krebs, I think my guess was like 2 something. I can't exactly remember. I had it written down. I did it pretty recently. Jack Reeves, I think he should get paid. Probably won't as much as I think he should. But again, if you can do like a bridge deal with him, they have the cap space to do it. Go and do it. Cole Sillinger was a guy, I think a couple of years ago, I said deserves just a fresh look somewhere else. Didn't happen. A lot of Jackets fans came after me. What's happened now hasn't exactly been the player you've been hoping for. Kira Schmid, worst case scenario for the Panthers is that they just take more to cap. So I guess the Panthers are hoping that goes their way. Kirby Dach for the Canadiens. He's had a lot of injury troubles. When he plays, I think he's pretty impactful. I don't know if that one will go his way. I think the one for the Rangers with Schneider probably goes the player's way. Drysdale, Zegras, that's going to be an interesting one. I think Zegras probably deserves about 7 to 7.5. Drysdale, we're going to see what's going to happen with him because I don't think he's been insane, but with what defensemen are getting paid, right? Like, I'm not even sure what he gets yet. I'm still trying to figure that one out. But he definitely hasn't wowed, I think, everyone as much as we were kind of been hoping. Nick Robertson, Leaf to Penguin, no surprise with Kyle Dubas. Honestly, I think I had him in at like 2.5 to 3. I think that's pretty fair for him. 20, 25 goal guy, maybe a little bit less, usually a little bit less. We'll see. Cole Perfetti, 6.5, $6 to $7 million, I'd say. Like, yeah, this was a guy who just didn't have the best luck last year. Still going to be a good piece going forward for Winnipeg. And I don't have it listed in here, but I would love if Winnipeg went after Shane Wright, speaking of the Jets, and a guy who needs a fresh start. That would do pretty well for their young core and exactly what they need. Now, speaking of guys who are looking for new starts, or maybe, who knows, they go back to their team, the remaining UFAs, and we're going to go through this quickly, still more to talk about. Michael Bunting, there are a lot of places that I think he could go. A good middle sixer, third-line guy, I think that's where he's sitting at right now. A little bit more time, I think he does better. I really love the idea of Michael Bunting on, like, the Leafs again, like that reunion kind of makes too much sense if you're trying to make Matthews happy. But there's a lot of places that I think that he could fit in. He plays a good game, goes into the corners, not afraid to be there. And I think he genuinely he's passionate. Like, you could see the passion when he plays. Didn't have like an insanely great year with Dallas, but that is what it is. Claude Giroux, there's been a lot of just talk about his future. He was in Ottawa. Again, the door's not shut there. There was some talks about him being on the Flyers now. That's never been confirmed. Other teams have checked in. I think Montreal and Toronto has as well. Why wouldn't you? I think this is going to be his last year. He had 49 points last year, almost 50 at 38 years old. He's still a damn good player. I want to know where he goes. I'm really excited. Adam Henrique, he's going to be a good bottom six guy, probably fourth line center. Patrick Kane is an interesting one. I still think it's more than likely he goes back to Detroit, but maybe he sees a way that he can get onto a team where he can win. He's probably going to still want to get paid. I assume it's going to be a 1 year, 2 year contract, probably not more than that. I would say 1 year at this point. But considering he had 57 points last year, just dishing the puck around at 37, 41 assists in 67 games, still a really good player. Excited to see what he does. John Klingberg, still going to be an offensive guy, can move the puck. Patrick Laine. I think if you give him a chance in like a third line kind of power play specialist, he could do well. And then Anthony Mantha. Mantha's an interesting one. He had a really good year in Pittsburgh, 33 goals, 64 points in 81 games. I think a lot of GMs are very skeptical about him. And we'll look into him quickly right now. This was the first year where we really saw him ball out, right? Like, you look back to his time in Detroit. Yeah, he had almost back-to-back 50-point seasons there. But since then, injuries have really caught him. It just hasn't been exactly consistent. His point production has taken a little bit of a fall in some years. In other years, it's kind of been, it is what it is. Yeah, if you're Anthony Mantha, I'm kind of scratching my head right now, trying to figure out, especially at 64 points, playing on an average about 15 minutes. I think he was utilized pretty well in certain situations. But the other thing you have to keep in mind, ladies and gentlemen, 21.7% shooting percentage. That's a tough one to bet on. Now, granted, last year, I guess in 13 games, he had 26%. But, that's not the same. It's not sustainable. So I think GMs look at this and say, he's been hurt years before. This was a really good year. He was utilized. Does he fit in our system? If not, we're not going to take the bet on him, right? He's probably going to want a decent, long-term contract to really cash in on what was a good year. But I think, no offense to him, but in a smart way, these GMs are looking at it and saying, I don't really know if I want to take on what could be a big risk. It is what it is. Talking about a non-big risk, or I guess risks in the opposite direction, Mavrik Bourque. So obviously he gets traded along with Ilya Lyubushkin to the Nashville Predators. He gets signed to a deal. And yeah, I love this for the Nashville Predators. And we'll look at it quickly here. Pretty sure it's just right up the list. So 5.5 over 6 years. Mavrik Bourque is really interesting because I think it's a great bet, right? This over 6 years, you're hoping that he gets to 50, 60 points. And if he does that, oh my God, what a steal for them, right? 41 points last year, 20 goals. Awesome. That's going to be hard to replace for the Dallas Stars in 82 games, playing just over 15 minutes a night. And yeah, when you're able to get your hands on a young forward like that at 24 years old, even if it's just me, if you have, if you have the cap space and you have a last pair spot on your defense open, I think taking Lyubushkin is still going to be a little bit of a cringe-worthy kind of, I don't know if I want to do that, but with what they paid, and you get Mavrik Bourque, I think you do that all day. I think this is really smart by McFarland. I think that he's done a really interesting job with the Nashville Predators so far. Now, getting some former Habs in Ross Colton and Chris Drury. No, and no, not the New York Rangers GM. But when you go and look at Nashville, and you look at Drury, and you look at Colton, and you just look what they have there, I think this is a really intriguing lineup. And do I think Bourque is going to be a centerman? I think he's more positioned well for a winger spot, but put him in between possibly a guy in Forsberg or Stamkos or Marchessault and Evangelista. I think that's a really interesting one. I think he's going to learn a lot. I think he's going to grow a lot, especially in more and more of an opportunity. I love this bet for Nashville. So good. Really excited. I don't know if I would. I think I'd go like an A-, B+, but yeah, I know he's been really, really fun. Going back to Pittsburgh quickly here for a second after we talked about Mantha, they made a couple of signings. It's going to be really interesting to see what they do with their goaltending, but Shilovs, he gets a 1-year deal. Blomqvist gets a 2-year extension. Igor Chinnikov, 6.25, 3 years. He had like 38 points in 43 games. So when he had that new opportunity, yeah, you jump on that all day, and I think you're going to throw that money at Chinnikov compared to a Mantha any day of the week, considering that Mantha was, what was he, 30? He's 30 right now? Yeah, so I mean, like, I think you kind of have to do that. But yeah, or maybe 32. But the Pittsburgh Penguins are going to be really interesting because in their goaltending spot, Shilovs wasn't insane last year, right? Pittsburgh wasn't even that crazy last year, but Blomqvist, I think he definitely has potential. We haven't even talked about a guy in Murashov yet who could probably play in the NHL next year. Got to watch him a couple times live, and he's an interesting goalie. Like, he's a good goalie. Very well positioned, very calm. There's still some things he has to figure out, obviously, and just with his game. But I think if you're going to run like a Shilovs Blomqvist, I'm fine with that. And then if you want, if you think Murashov needs another year, if not, like whatever, you go and run him and Shilovs, and you put Blomqvist down in Wilkes-Barre. So we'll see. But yeah, I want to point out some of those moves. There's not really much others that I want to talk about. We already talked about Mintyukov, at least the ones that are, recent. Spencer Stastny, good depth signing. They have like 8 defensemen. They're going to have to trade one in Edmonton. So we'll see how that one goes. But yeah, there isn't much other ones there, except for one. And it is Simon Nemec. He signs a 5-year deal, $7.25 per year. I honestly thought he was going to get more, to be honest. And I only say that because of guys like Brandt Clarke and Mintyukov. Do I still like the deal? No, but it's not as big of a deal. I see what I did there for a team like the Calgary Flames. I think it's lower risk because of where they're at right now, right? You don't have to deal so much with the cap. You're still rebuilding. You're still kind of doing your thing. And if he grows into this deal, then yeah, great. Like, you still have him. Say if he's great this year, you still have him for the next 4 years at 7.25. It's going to be interesting to see what happens with Parekh as well, too, on Calgary, right? That's going to be a big year for him. But just for the Calgary Flames, I mean, you got to love it. So, yeah, that's the last thing I wanted to talk about here, the Nemec one and a bunch of these. And kind of glad that, considering I couldn't do my podcast this morning because of a random work on my power, I'm glad I got the Nemec one in here. So if you haven't already, make sure you go like, subscribe, ring that bell, and comment. I want to hear what all of you have to say about this podcast and just everything that we talked about. And if I missed anything as well. So, of course, until next time, my name is Zach Staden, and we'll be talking soon.